I grew up without a lot of family. My mom's siblings, both of them had no kids. Her brother and her sister both didn't have kids. My dad's sister and her kids are kind of estranged from us. So I grew up kind of with a knowledge of extended family, but I never really had a relationship with anybody outside of my immediate family. And it used to really bother me when I was a kid. And I used to see other people going out with their cousins and all their family members and doing big family events, and it really used to bother me. But as I got older, I kind of just got used to the fact that I didn't have what those other kids had. So, it was one of those things I got used to in my life. I made friends, I did other things to build relationships with people. And I had thought that, I had gotten over that. And it wasn't until one morning I was in my apartment and I got a phone call from my mom. And at this point, I don't remember the exact phone conversation, but for context, I had an Ancestry account and I found distant cousins on there, like third, fourth cousins, or people I already knew that I was related to. But she was on my Ancestry account because she wanted to poke around, see what the account was like or what the website was like, to see if she should do the same thing and do the DNA testing. She went through my messages because somebody had recently messaged me, and it was somebody asking, "Hey, do you know this person? I think they might be my dad." So my mom calls me and she tells me about this person who turns out to be my cousin, my first cousin. So that would be my mom's brother's child, who's now 30 years old. And the story of what happened was, my uncle, donated sperm when he was in college. And back then, that was 30 years ago, Ancestry.com wasn't a thing. And there are certain privacy laws, so he didn't ever think that he'd ever have to think about this or encounter this ever again. So that ended up not being the case. So then my mom's telling me about this person, it sounds like he's your cousin, I'm going to have to call him later. So she calls him, they talk for a while, and then I finally got to meet him. I met him in the same town that my girlfriend at the time lived in, which is weird because she lived in Tolland, Connecticut, which is not very close to here. It's like 45 minutes away. But me and my mom, we drove down there to meet him, his wife, and his daughter, Clara. And it was such an awesome experience. But, I hadn't gotten close with him yet because I had just met him. He was still like a new person, and it's hard for me to like really get close to people. But I think there was some fight I had with my girlfriend a few months later, and I ended up calling him because in my head I was like, you know what? He's a new connection, he's a new person, he's a new family. I'm going to call him and I'm going to see what he has to say about this. And it was in that moment of reaching out to somebody to, gain perspective, to vent, to lean on somebody. And it sparked like this best friendship that I have now with a cousin of mine. And I really love this story because it just goes to show that you can think that you have, this is my family, or these are my friends, and this is just, these are the people in my life, and you never know when somebody's gonna show up in your life. And I also kind of like this story because it goes along with the theme of my last speech, which is that life is unexpected, and you never know who you're gonna meet or what's gonna happen. So, long story short, somebody who I may have even passed in my life ended up being my family, and who is now like such a close part of my everyday life. We hang out and we talk all the time. So that is probably my favorite story to tell people.